Hey everybody, it's TorontoUnicorn. So this is gonna be a long video. It's gonna be a story time video. I hope you're here for the ride. This is about my very first meet and greet I did at Oasis Aqualounge on June 8th, 2022, where I basically coordinated with the club to be able to speak at their speed dating event. And I actually participated in the event as well. And before that, I actually was there to basically be a social person in the pool to talk to everybody. And talk to everybody I did. I talked to every single person in the pool. Like I made a point of making every single person feel included in whatever the question or game was that was going on in the pool. I saw a lot of people feel good about engaging and feeling included and being asked, like some guys just sitting off to the side, or, you know, why just watch people have fun, right? Like why not just participate too? And so sometimes you just need that friendly invitation. So anyways, I'm gonna tell you all about it. I'm super thrilled about how it all went. I came home that night feeling super grateful and blessed that it went the way it did, and so many other great emotions. So I can't wait to fill you all in. So here do we get started? So basically I have the greatest friends. So I had Elle, R, and Jila Valentine all kind of lined up to come do this social event with me. They knew in advance that I wasn't going to be kind of hanging out with them specifically tonight, but they were encouraged to be very social as well in the pool. So if any of my fans, for example, showed up and like recognized them, had questions for them, they were totally open to answering them or like being just friendly people, right? And so I just felt like really great to be able to introduce my friends to even first timers, to be like, hey, yeah, we're real people, like this is a real place, you know? So I was thrilled that we all were there. We got to do a little video clip outside of Oasis, which I thought was super awesome. And then we all went in and our night got started. So basically I'll start by, you know, the first, you know, we got into the pool and we started socializing a little bit, but like, I just don't know how to like jump into a pool and suddenly like get everybody like wanting to talk to me. So it's like, you know, I had to like figure out for a moment like what my strategy was or whatnot. And it started small. So I started by just asking the people around me if I could ask them intrusive questions. So I love that question. When I want somebody to talk to me at a sex club, I like saying, can I ask you an intrusive question? Because the word intrusive is so intriguing to people that they want to know what you're going to ask. So usually they'll say yes so that you ask it. So I forget, it's an interesting question also because everybody answers differently. I asked the whole pool a certain question and there was only 2 people who said the same answer. So I'll tell you what that was later on in the video. But basically we were just socializing and I'd go up to every single person and ask them this question and get their answer, go from one person to the other. And then I would move on and see whoever was sitting nearby and ask, hey, do you want to participate? And usually they'd be like, oh, sure, okay. And then I'd say like, okay, ask the question. And then they would say the answer. It wasn't like they had to answer in front of the whole pool. They were just answering with me, but people were listening, right? So it was really like a low pressure kind of engagement. So here's the question that I asked everybody. It's my favorite question to ask at Oasis is, what is the last porn that you had an orgasm to? And I asked about, I don't know, like 20 people, 25 people in the pool. And there was only 2 answers that had at least 2 people say it. Do you want to know what they were? Hentai and lesbian porn. Otherwise, there was no overlap. Think about that. Everybody watches something else when they wank. You know what I'm saying? And it changes. I changed. I used to have different genres, DP, gangbang, all that stuff. Now I've moved on to other things. Always have a taste for it in a certain mood. But yeah, I also think don't ever judge anybody by the porn that they watch. I mean, really, it can just be hard to explain sometimes why you get off on certain things, and it doesn't matter. Like orgasms are orgasms. So I'm a more goal-oriented person, you know what I'm saying? So anyway, so that's the question I went around asking, and then it was time to basically do the speech. Now, I should have went and smoked some weed in advance, but because I didn't plan my night perfectly, I didn't have enough time. And I don't know about you, but weed calms me down. Weed, in my opinion, makes me funnier, all those kind of things. So I was basically up there doing a speech, kind of sober, you know, which is for me, not my ideal state when I'm giving a speech, but that's okay. So basically, I'll tell you how the speech went. Everybody was in the ballroom, which is, you know, one of the rooms that people can play in when people aren't doing a presentation. And I was up on the stage holding a microphone. And then after, there was all these 8 chairs behind me. And so after my speech, we did a speed dating event. And this is the second part of the video. This is so fun to talk about. So I did my speech, and It wasn't my best speech in my opinion because I felt a little sober for one, but also I did feel like I'm so used to my YouTube channel where I don't think so much about the audience and whether they understand the slang I'm using and things like that. And it did teach me, because the Oasis staff were good to make sure people in the room, who many of them were brand new, knew what I was talking about when I said words like vanilla world. They didn't know. It was a good thing that Miss F had to explain that. Then I brought up polyamory, and then they talked about the differences in the polyamory and open relationship and all that hierarchy. So the Oasis staff like jumped in with like helpful information so that people actually understood what was being said, what's available in the club, like, you know, the different dynamics. And that's one thing I think I'm going to take as a takeaway, is that I have to do a better job of breaking down my language to make sure my audience can understand me. So that's actually was a good learning opportunity for me. But I think it was also good that I was able to talk to friends. So there's friends that also just happened to work at the club, and a lot of them were able to take the microphone and contribute to the conversation and bring their own flavor of their own experience, or what, you know, their, you know, poly or open relationship, whatever it is. And they were all able to contribute their own voice. And I think that was also helpful because, you know, and no one is like a one person expert. You know what I'm saying? This is a big world. Everybody has, you know, common ground understandings. And I just think there's so many different pieces and people contribute different voices. And I think that overall it was a better presentation because they had all the different voices. But yes, it was really good. I got to, you know, make a few jokes, talk about how it's, dating in the swinger world is a little different because it's unlike Tinder. Like you can unmatch somebody in the swinger world, but you're still gonna fucking see them all the time, you know? So you better be nice. You better be very nice, because civility is king, you know? So anyways, so that was my speech. I gave, these are basically the topics that I went through. I talked about how in the swinger world, you know, we live outside the box already, outside of the vanilla world, which is basically mainstream society that doesn't talk about sex or doesn't have, you know, sex as part of their culture all the time. That's what I consider to be vanilla world. So basically I talked about all the different opportunities available to swingers. Like, you don't have to just date one-on-one. You don't need a girl dating a boy, or girl and girl, boy, whatever. You can date, girl can date couple, girl can date, you know, two men at the same time. Like, there's so much room to navigate this world in your own way and not worry about like the certain configurations that are available in vanilla world, because there's so much more opportunity. And so the example I gave is like, I have kind of like a friends with benefits with a couple, Jila Valentine, and they're a couple, they're madly in love, they play with a lot of people, but once in a while we get to hang out, we get to explore and have fun together, and that's what we are for each other. We're friends with benefits. So in the swinger world, you can have all sorts of, they're not so much dating dynamics, but they're still relationships, they're still dynamics, even if they're informal in a way, or, you know, that kind of stuff. They're still very meaningful. So that was one of the things I mentioned. I also gave some words of caution, and I'm not gonna lie, I'm pretty sure I saw some fear in the hostess face, because they kind of took the microphone from me at one point when I said something a little kind of, I would say a bit controversial, but in my opinion, very real. And basically I was mentioning a kind of a scary story, not scary story, a scary story for a girl's feelings, it is. But basically I was telling a story about a friend of mine. It's not me. If it was about me, I would have said so. That basically had a planned meetup with a guy that she knew that she had slept with already, whatever. She was supposed to meet him at the club. And at the last minute, his primary partner, apparently he's poly, was suddenly available and wanted to come. And so he basically like said like, hey, I'm going to bring my partner. And so instead, like, my friend came to the club and had to watch her potential, like her supposed date for the night, literally have sex with his girlfriend instead of her all night. And I just thought, I don't care who you are, that's going to hurt feelings. Like, that's even, you know, she's fine, she handled it well, whatever, but like, that's not okay. Respect people a little bit more than that. People will be upset sometimes. It's not the more the merrier when you're dealing with multiple relationships or dynamics, especially with women. Be careful, especially because this girl was straight. Like, she doesn't actually want to play together with this girl, so like there really wasn't any opportunity there. So that was the story. But they kind of grabbed the microphone from me at that moment, and I thought, oh my god, these people are like afraid that I'm gonna like say something terrible, or did I already say something terrible? But the truth is, like, it actually is a story that turned out well, because just like everything else in this world, communication is king. And this guy and this girl that in the story made up because they actually talked about it afterwards and aired their grievances and you know, felt validated and moved on. And so, you know, these things can happen. Yes, there's also ways around them, ways to mitigate them, apologies, things like that, you know. And so it wasn't like just me, you know, venting about some guy did some terrible thing, but I saw some fear, and I was like, you know, I'm just gonna land this plane gently, no more turbulence, just get it on the runway, no more controversial things. So anyways, and then I finished it off by basically saying some words of caution again about just that you're going to see the same people over and over again. It's a small community at Oasis, especially. Even if you date somebody and it goes well for a few months and then it doesn't, you still have to run into them, and you will run into them. And so it's one of those, it's not like vanilla world where, like, yes, you might run into your ex-boyfriend at like Jack Astor's, but in this community, like, you could even run into like your ex-husband, ex-boyfriend, whatever. You can run into them like balls deep in a girl, okay? Like, you could, it's different. It's almost traumatic to some people, right? It would be traumatic if I was like, like, I'm seeing somebody that, like, you know, I have emotional things for, and like they're having this really intimate experience with somebody else, like that's like actually could be traumatic for some people. So I had to say to people, like, you know, try to keep it as civil as possible. Try to remember that it's a small community and that there's like networking and like people know people. So, you know, leave a good impression on people, even if you don't work out, you know, you can just do the handshake part ways. So that was basically the speech.